take that hot sheet out of the press and throw it. Yeah, it's something. I guess if you needed like aircraft raven, turn it off and in the press or something. Yeah, but that gave a big production.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, you want to mute your laptop? Okay, you're good. Jansen has helpfully suggested I unmute myself for him and no one else on Zoom. So sorry, Jansen. You got to yell next time. Exactly. All right, cool. Eric, you want to come on up and that Eric? The other Eric isn't here yet, so okay. you're gonna be the Eric. Yeah, yep. You can just sit over here.
Great. So, what do I do? Share my screen?
Yeah, just hit share screen.
Do I unmute or no?
Nope, because this one's got all the audio stuff. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then, yep.
Oh, sure.
So that'll share just the Chrome instance if that's what you're after. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. So you can see over here.
Yeah,
okay. So it should be good. Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Yep. Just set it somewhere.
Hey, everybody. I'm Eric Theis. I'm from San Francisco. I'm kind of touring around with this weird project that I have, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the project. This is a software project, not really a hardware project. So let me tell you about it. Okay, I will stop there. The first three are the only ones I showed. Recent performance in Denver with Carl Richter on lap steel guitar, Daniel Zamzow on cello in Fort Collins, and then the last thing was from San Francisco at the Luggage Store Gallery. The guy goes by Head Boggle. Didn't show all these. Why am I doing this? I come from experimental film background, so I'm really interested in the work of a particular filmmaker named Paul Schertz, who worked with, these are pieces of 16mm film sandwiched between plexiglass and reflection of me in a museum looking at these things. Basically worked with solid color 16mm frames, and worked with kind of fatiguing the optical system so that you would see colors and then you start seeing colors that weren't there, and doubled that up with a soundtrack that did the same thing. As he evolved from that, he also did more installations where he would have projectors running and overlapping colors in this way, so that there was this kind of, again, this ongoing, ever-changing combination of colors that people could stay with and go with. I'm also interested in slower changes, like these installations you may have seen by the artist James Turrell, who builds these kind of immersive color rooms called Gansfelds that are very disorienting. I mean, the rooms hide the seams of the walls and ceilings anyway, but once you're in there, it's quite overwhelming. And these colors change quite slowly, unlike the Schertz films. I'm also interested in sort of 60s era light shows. It's before my time, but you used to get these like rock concerts things where these guys would show up with shutter mechanisms and slide projectors and trays of water and oil to do color cloudy things, and who knows what else they all did. There is a movie showing a longer version of this talk, but I'm going to skip it. So we're going to skip that. And finally, kind of interested in letter forms as not informational, but just as abstract objects. So work like this, large letters like this, outsider artists and concrete poets, very interested in adapting these to cartography, which is what I'm supposed to be here talking about. So anyway, some work. These are by the Canadian poet Derek Boulot. What I'm doing, which is the technical aspect, is a few things. I consider everything I do Carto-OSC or Carto-OSC is what I usually say. I'm using open source mapping package called MapLibre, which was forked from Mapbox because Mapbox became more restrictive in their licensing. So the last fully open version forked and is now continuing to be developed. So what you're seeing on the screen is MapLibre. It's working with map tiles that are generated from the OpenStreetMap project using these things. My control, which I'll demo in a bit, that looks like this, is implemented using OpenStage control by this French developer, Jean-Emmanuel Doucet. And then there's like 1,000 and growing lines of JavaScript that I use to basically take the impulses from the iPad, turn them into styling instructions for the map software so that I can get my color changes and my movements and these other various things. Yeah, this is a couple of the panels that I use. Like, this, I guess I'll say a little bit about this. Anybody who's worked with GIS knows that, there are layers of water and layers of roads and layers of land use and layers of buildings and layers of boundaries. And, you can have as many layers as you need imposed into the data. These are all color wheels, hue, saturation, and alpha channel to control those particular things. To the right are ways I can change the rotation or get a continuous rotation going and do various other effects to make things jitter or oscillate or do other things. So this is where I spend most of my time during a performance. It's on this screen. This is just a number of, this is inspired actually by a local cartographer, Daniel Huffman, who put out a monochrome mapping challenge. So this allows me to basically work with, if I want my map to have a dark green color, I can choose that and it'll randomly cycle through and change the various layers to be things within these particular hues. What is this? Yeah, this is the map. It's web mapping software, so this allows me to do CSS sorts of things, cascading style sheet things around the outside of the map. And then I can go to particular destinations that either I arrive at through conversation with my musician or things that interest me. Just, on the screen, they're interesting destinations. This one is interesting because I can both upload a GPS trace of a walk I've taken, or I can do a routing, traffic routing sort of thing with OSRM, the open source routing machine. And you get a different kind of motion if you do that. So I have, this is grown, but there's quite a few of these things, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of tabs where I can control these things. I don't want to go over my time. The kind of messages that get sent from the iPad to the laptop look like this. So there's this tuple here that gives hue, saturation, lightness, alpha channel. I like, yeah, the protocol is open sound control, which I like compared to MIDI, because MIDI, in my limited understanding, is very note focused. It's really about instruments talking to instruments. And this is more expansive, and so you can basically create your own namespace. Looks like URLs. I'm a web programmer. I like URLs. So I can send messages this way and create my own namespace to get what I need the software to do. Here's another pair of things where I'm changing a font to a particular size and also changing its color. That's a demo that I won't show you. And I'll just talk about my experience about going out. I've done about 16 of these performances in the past year, starting in Lisbon and mostly in North America since then. It's really fun to work with great musicians who improvise. Some of them are people I only know because I have the records, and I email them and I'm like, I do this weird thing, look at the videos, what do you think? Do you want to collaborate? They all say yes, unless their schedule doesn't work, or one guy's like, I don't do door gigs, which a lot of these are. Like, you work for 50% of the door, then you get something, he doesn't do that. If I get a museum gig, we'll probably work together. What else? Yeah, so that's thrilling. Often after performance, I'll do a Q&A, which is kind of unusual in a music setting, because like you go to a jazz club and somebody's improvising, you don't usually get to do a Q&A with the musician, but audience is kind of like that. And, musicians will talk, I'll talk. People ask, what is this all about? And those are quite good. And then it's also interesting just to figure out, I'm not a musician, not really an improviser before I built this stuff. So to find out how I'm reacting to sounds or audience reaction, so on, is really quite a nice learning experience for me. Do I have anything else I want to say? Yes, I'm partly here because I'm doing a show tomorrow night at the Mills Folly Micro Cinema, which is in the Arts Literature Laboratory building, with upright bassist Ari Smith. It's tomorrow night at 7, $5. That's $5 you'll spend tomorrow. And then I'm going back to Chicago. I'm doing a show at Ben Zucker at the Block Museum, doing a talk at the American Geographical Society Library in Milwaukee on the 13th, and then performing with a trio at the Jazz Gallery on the 17th, which I'm excited about. I have a mailing list if you want to hear about these things. I'm on social media and so on. And this list sometimes is long and sometimes short, but these are folks here who helped me. Thanks, Brad, for hosting me, and Brad Partner. Thank you, Chris. And thanks to other people who've been helping promote and find a venue for this. And some of this work was done at these 2 residencies, one in Lisbon and one in upstate New York. So hopefully I didn't go too much over my time, but I'm happy to answer any questions or comments or thoughts, or I can do a demo if I have a little bit of time. Yeah.
So do I understand correctly, you're kind of like an audio DJ,
Yeah.
messing with the virtual mount the whole time. Like, if you pick your hands up, then that whole thing would stop.
Whoops. Hang on a sec. Oh, I thought this would, doesn't let me share that anymore. Well, I was trying to share a different screen.
So just do unshare.
Yeah, and share again.
Yep, and then share again, because it'll be trapped in the one.
Got it.
Otherwise you can share your desktop and it'll show whatever you've got up. Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, so I've lost my connection, which is always been. So sorry, yeah, I mean, this is basically, this is my experience. So, yeah, I feel like, I'm.
we were messing with that the whole time. It wasn't a pre-recorded.
Right, yes, that's a question that comes up a lot, yeah, there's video.
Yeah.
Well, like the graphics, there are certain things like with these, with the destinations. So for example, if I do. There are, so if I'm doing, I'll just say it. Sure.
Is it pulling tiles off the internet or is it cache local?
No, it's all.
Okay.
Anyway, to answer your question, yeah, so the GPS traces, those things are evaluation, so you're up those, but once they start, there might be a into Santa Cruz, it's pre-recorded in the sense of the letter. But the colors, instead of using colors. So it's all. Cool.
What's the name of the seed?
There's only no at sea, like protocol is software, the software, the control. But it's, yeah, it's, you know, you basically get this canvas, like, I want here, I want slider here, I want here. And, that's super responsive. Chat board, there's an issue or something. Something like that. So it's really quite good. It's good. It's, yeah, it's easy. I work with much more different thing while we are maybe it was good in the thousands, but at this point, if you hooked up a second monitor, it's not, you know, it's not.
Do you ever work with data? So same location over time, like the growth of San Francisco is one of your.
I haven't yet. I mean, that's that interesting. Yeah. Yes, I mean, I do apply for residencies with these kinds of projects in mind. So if somebody's willing to like be for 2 weeks, set me up those kinds of projects. They doesn't tend to be big. Mostly I give a performance and it's like, you know, when people that note, I wish I could have done that. That's kind of simple, and I'll go write that code. For bigger projects, yeah, it's super interesting. There's the Newberry Library in Chicago. It's a great collection of the curator. He asked me if do I ever use raster scans of maps. Like, he's interested in like, you do historic maps. No, there's no way to do that, but he's kind of getting it as early. Maybe I'll be able to do something.
Yeah, similar question. I wanted to play with historical data that was specific. I think it's one of the GIS. You can get multiple sort of data on cities that goes to the assessor's website. You can get, you know, extend data when built first thought rebuilt. And then I you know, then you can ramp that sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
So do you just take, are you playing with just real time cities that you go to, or is it all generally?
oh, so you know, I try to say, I asked my collaborators if there are specific locations that might trigger them, and so I don't know what other language to use. Like, if I put up your neighborhood where you grew up as a kid, are you going to start? Yes. And then the question are, if I put up a really regular street grid, or if I put up a river thing you don't recognize, exactly. Those are things that help that I, you know, I mean, this part of this stems from just like, you know, I saw I was looking at, oh, what's that? You know, like, there's a lot of people. And if there's something interesting, I'll mark it or I'll put it in. So sometimes it's my own investigation. I'm saying the guy, there was the large projection with working sound, with Michael in San Francisco. That guy was interesting. It was a unique collaboration because he, in advance of his performances, he makes backing tracks and then provides the reviews. And all of his backing tracks, based on our conversation, they all had location. Well, there's a 57-second piece called The Power Sheet, a 3-minute piece called The Battle. So I could use his title as suggestion to investigate. These that are interesting to use them if they want to maybe exclude them away, or maybe like, well, what is that? So that was quite nice because a lot of times, you know, like the area I had face to face, you know, we're going to do sound check, set some cues, just perform. But with him, I actually had music. So what I was doing wasn't doing 100%. That's possible for me.
So Caroline's not here to ask, but have you ever done anything with lakes?
Oh, with lakes.
Yeah, she does a lot of mathematic maps.
Oh.
So like the lake, the underwater topography of lakes.
Yeah.
Would be another,
That's
another
on my,
interesting one.
that's on my short list. I really love the look of soundings. Soundings are really beautiful. Yeah, documentary is interesting. Contour lines sort of the same thing, but in performing. And those, you have several musicians will do contours. Yeah, I should be able to do that. This, you know, OpenStreetMap is kind of a flat version database, you know, except the buildings might have heights. It's one of, I mean, it's one of the things that it uses to show maps of totally places like San Francisco. That's Twin Peaks and that's the mission. And it's the same. We're just not the same. Contour lines, I would like those shorter lists.
Then how do you, are you chasing residencies around the country? It looked like you were kind of all over the place. Is it maybe just chasing opportunities, or do you have interest in specific things where you're going, or?
Residencies or
Well,
what?
just anything, yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, what I,
I guess what's brought you here?
yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question. Last fall, we gave a talk at the National Cartographic Information Society. And that was good, you know, and I found an upright bass player in Minneapolis, great position to perform. But this is kind of a slam dunk, and you get technical talk. You can tell all those people to come and work with the musicians and artists. Then you go to something like alternative microsynths. So this time around, I spoke in Denver at the American Institute of Geologists conference. I lined up the Peaceful Collins show, the Denver show, and Pueblo show. And I had hoped perform as part of the presentation would happen, but I still wanted to do the Chicago. So like, yeah, I did Colorado for a couple of weeks, trained Chicago here, because Chicago was strong.
Yeah. There are a lot of geography nerds.
A lot of geography nerds, yeah. So sort of those kinds of opportunities. It was nice about Chicago. I felt Brad doing the show at his university museum, but it's a museum. Museum checked off the list, and hopefully one museum. You know, I get to the point where somebody's like, "You can do shows about maps." But this is guy in San Francisco.
So in other words, you're looking for your next gig, maybe somebody in the audience.
Somebody else. Yeah, I mean, I'm here mostly because may not be able to do the show.
Yeah.
Artie's interesting because he's he hasn't undergraduate degrees. Well, yeah, like how do I find these people? Bandcamp, City, maybe that's the way to go. And then I listened to the music. You know, he recommended somebody do something else. I said, like, good musician, but not one thing. But He's here doing a PhD, basically in operation research, which my PhD is in. So I'm kind of curious what we both bring to the way we work. So our yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, please come tomorrow.
That was,
7 o'clock. Yeah,
it's right downtown.
yeah, it's a beautiful building. It's really, we have a small press library on the second floor, third floor, galleries throughout. It's a great series. Within it is this Bill Smiley micro cinema, which is run by Jim Poole, who's been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. So, yeah.
Well, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Anybody else have anything they want to share? Eric, I followed the other Eric, not the same. I've not heard back. So if not, we can call it a short night.
Anybody on Zoom got anything they want to present? Otherwise, we're gonna have a short presentations. All right. I'm gonna kill off the Zoom then. Thanks for coming.